Hello again from Boeing Field here in Seattle. Again, we're waiting for the airplane, the 787-9, to land here. Sorry, the airplane's not here yet. Flight testing is dynamic, and ultimately it is the pilots in charge. And I was told they were actually just wrapping up some final test conditions before coming back down here. We believe there, off in the distance, you can tell as good as I can with our camera zoomed all the way in. We believe that is the 787-9. It is a little cloudy here, so harder to see. I should mention here at Boeing Field, it is an active airport, active runway. 10-15 minutes ago, we saw an airplane coming in to land, and we thought that was it. No, it ended up being a P-8, which actually is a derivative of the 737, a product for our Boeing Defense, Space, and Security. Okay, well, as we you may start to hear now audio of an airplane landing, but that is not the 787. One of the reasons why you can tell is because it's a little louder. All right, what you heard through the microphone there, maybe you can hear it, was an MD-11 landing. Slightly older airplane, a little bit louder. I can promise you when the 787-9 comes in to land, you will not hear nearly that much noise. A big part of that is because of the advanced engines that are on board and that power the 787 family. On board today's airplane are the Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engines. Airlines will also be able to choose from the General Electric GE NX engines. Both of them very fuel efficient, very quiet. Great job by our partners with the engine manufacturers. They've done a great job in providing us a set of engines that can really improve the fuel efficiency of the airplane, improve the environmental performance of the airplane, and also the noise footprint of the airplane. Again, we have our camera zoomed all the way in, and if I'm looking at the monitor correctly, that does look like the shape and outlines of this Dreamliner. And part of the reason why you could tell watching there is the spectacular sweep of those composite wings. It is just a tremendous sight, both online looking through video or in person. Speaking of which, we are literally just steps from the runway here at Boeing Field. We're going to have a tremendous angle. We have several cameras trained onto the airplane. We can also see the two T-33 chased airplanes that are flying alongside the Dreamliner. Now, it's a little misleading because the camera's capability to zoom in makes it seem like the airplane's pretty much right on top of us, but it still has a little ways to go. I would say in just a couple of minutes, this airplane will land. You can clearly see the outlines of those larger engines. Again, much more fuel efficient, much better for the environment, much better for community noise performance. You can start to make out the upward swept of those beautiful Dreamliner wings. As it slowly descends onto Boeing Field, you can see the Seattle Space Needle behind it, the Seattle skyline, Beacon Hill start to come into view. The maiden flight of the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner about to wrap up here. And we have wheels down at 4:18 p.m. Tuesday, September 17th, making the first flight of the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner just over 5 hours and 15 minutes. What engine noise you did hear, actually, a lot of that was from the chase airplanes. It is pretty amazing, actually, how quiet the 787-9 Dreamliner is. In fact, we've had folks visit our facilities, both here in Seattle and up in Everett, remark how they can sometimes barely hear the 787 either at takeoff or at landing. Now let me run you through what's about to happen here. The airplane's going to make its way to the south end of Boeing Field. Our crews will go down there, connect the airplane to a tug, and basically pull it back up north to where we are. And then we have a temporary hangar all set up here for a post-flight press conference, at which time we'll talk to both pilots at the controls today, Captains Randy Neville and Mike Bryan, both very experienced pilots in their own right, and especially on the 787. The 5-hour flight today only adds to their giant Dreamliner resume. Both of them combined have more than thousands of hours, both in the simulator and actually flying in the flight deck. All right, 787 continuing to make its turn. And while it's doing that, let me tell you briefly, tip to tail, that airplane is just over 200 feet, about 60 meters, 20 feet longer than its sibling, the 787-8. Lengthened fuselage gives airlines space to carry about 40 additional passengers. So depending on the configuration, you carry 250 to 290 passengers. This airplane also has improved range, up to 8,500 nautical miles, and all of it powered by those engines. This airplane is able to use 20% less fuel, so 20% better fuel performance, 20% better environmental performance is the reason why we've received 338 orders for this airplane from leading airlines around the world, including Air New Zealand, which, by the way, I just checked, it is just after 11 a.m. there in New Zealand. A special kia ora to our launch customers there. I hope I said that correctly. We're so glad you are the launch customer and that you'll be taking this aircraft starting in 2014. All right, as the airplane makes its way to where we are, I'm joined by a special guest. Stan Deal is the Vice President of Supplier Management and Operations. Stan has the unenviable job of managing a vast supply chain for the Dreamliner. Stan, tell us about this airplane. I mean, aside from the design and technology of this airplane, it also had a new model in terms of having a lot of supplier partners help us out with.
Yeah, that's right, Bernard. And first of all, I know all of our suppliers around the world are smiling right now as the 787 landed, but this is a well-orchestrated symphony of supplier partners working with Boeing. We have about 50 Tier 1 suppliers on the 787, and then below them, several hundred suppliers. And like the Boeing staff, they've worked night and day to make this dream a reality. And the -9 certainly looks great.
Yeah, it's something that we could not pull off. Oftentimes you see the side of the airplane, it says Boeing, but it is a global team that makes this happen. What does this mean for your team and also for all of our suppliers?
Well, this is the culmination of the hard work, as I said. But what it reaffirms is that Boeing's got it right. We have the right product for the market that our customers deeply want because it brings fuel savings and passenger comfort, and that's first and foremost. And then for our supplier partners, obviously, it means valuable work that can help their companies grow and prosper as these airplanes get to market.
As we look at the airplane, give our viewers a sense of where some of these parts come from, because it is from literally all over the world.
All four corners, global, from China to Japan with our heavy industry partners, KHI, FHI, MHI, to the United States with many of our major system suppliers like United Technologies, General Aviation, or GE, and of course in the UK, Rolls-Royce powered this airplane today. But I'd also like to acknowledge our own fabrication division, which produces parts in Frederickson, Portland, Winnipeg, Boeing Australia, they also played a key role in supplying to the assembly line of the 787.
And also we should mention our propulsion team. They did a lot of work on this airplane.
Yeah, our propulsion team worked hard managing 2 major engine partners, bringing that all together so that ultimately the airline got the best fuel efficiency, which is what this is all about.
I was saying I don't envy your job, and I mean that. I mean, it is quite the logistics challenge. How does Boeing go about managing so many suppliers around the world?
Well, it is like conducting a symphony, and we have some disciplined processes from a quality system that has high standards we require of all of our supplier partners, and then processes in terms of managing the engineering flow, the parts flow, so that it all arrives on our dock as we promised to the customer and on time. And we can't do it without the many men and women of Boeing and our supply chain ultimately working together hand and fist to make this happen.
Yeah, and we should mention we're just here on behalf of the 170,000 men and women of the Boeing company around the world. I'd like to ask you, I know you've been with the company for quite a long time in many different roles in sales, managing the supply chain. What does it mean for you as an employee to see this?
Well, I'm proud. I mean, this is the culminating event. We call it the birth of the airplane. I had the pleasure of working with Air New Zealand in my roles in sales and marketing, so a shout out to my friends at Air New Zealand. I know it's a long time coming, but this airplane is going to do everything we promised for you. And I know it will delight your customers, the passengers that it serves.
That's right, in your time overseeing sales in Southeast Asia. So this airplane, the 787-9 for Air New Zealand, is a big part of their fleet transformation. I mean, they're upgrading their fleet, adding 777s, also 10 of these, yes. I believe, 787-9. So for all of our customers who have signed on to the Dash, I know in your time in sales, I think I can imagine airlines are sort of salivating for the fuel savings, and that's a big attraction to them.
Yeah, they're clamoring for this, but I think the fuel burn is a wonderful thing. And then Air New Zealand's unique. Air New Zealand likes to really differentiate the travel experience for its passengers. Many of its passengers are for tourism, and they're going to be putting some innovative seating technology that they rolled out on the 777 onto this airplane. But this is going to afford a new level of comfort for them and allow them to really grow in the markets they serve.
Hey Stan, thanks very much. And as you can see there in the live pictures, our crews are connecting a tug to the airplane. The engines have now shut off. They'll be able to tug the airplane back here to the hangars that we have at Boeing Field. We'll have a post-flight press conference with the pilots, Captains Neville and Captain Brian. We'll be able to hear what they did over the 5 hours, some of the test conditions that they did, aside from cycling through the landing gear, testing the flaps, slowly expanding the envelope of the airplane. Like I said earlier today, we joined you about 30-45 minutes north of where we are up at Payne Field in Everett, where the airplane came together in final assembly. The airplane took off at around 11:02 local time. It is now just after, let me just check, just after 4, almost 4:30 local time. So yeah, definitely more than a 5-hour flight, a full first flight. Our flight plan had called for it to be 4 to 5 hours. So the airplanes definitely have gone through their job. We have our cameras, earlier you just saw the camera zoomed in into the flight deck. The two pilots sort of wrapping up their work, a major milestone for them. They prepared months for this, years in fact, helping with the development and then preparing in the simulator to get ready to fly this airplane. It's been a long day for them. I saw them earlier today. They were getting ready, doing a walk around of the airplane. And so after this flight is over, they will depart the airplane, participate in a post-flight press briefing, and even after that, they have more work to do. There will be a post-flight review with all of the flight testing team. They so have more work to do before it's all said and done. Congratulations to them. Also congratulations to the rest of the Boeing team, including our colleagues in North Charleston, South Carolina, who did a big part of this airplane. So congratulations to them. Job well done. Sorry you can't be with us in person, but we're glad you've joined the thousands of others who've logged on to Boeing.com and newairplane.com for this webcast. We mentioned Air New Zealand a little while ago. While that airline will be the first to fly the 787-9, they will by no means be the last. We have leading carriers around the world who are awaiting delivery of this airplane, and they include United Airlines, American Airlines, Air Canada here in North America. In Europe, we have British Airways. Over in Asia, All Nippon Airways, ANA, Japan Airlines, Air China. In the Middle East, a big 787-9 customer, Etihad. In Central and South America, LAN, Aeromexico. And then back down in Southeast Asia, we have, I already went over that. One more to mention here, Virgin Atlantic. Now here's the thing, if some of the airlines that you love to fly, I have not mentioned them yet, that's because some of the airlines will be leasing the airplanes, and we have great leasing customers for this airplane, including ILFC, a major lessor, and they have purchased a number of these 787-9s, and they'll be leasing to other airlines, so you might yet, if your favorite airline isn't on the list yet, you might yet, well, fly the airplane. Again, a crowd gathered here, both Boeing employees, special guests, our customers, our supplier partners, here to take in this really historic milestone in aviation. It is not often that we get the first flight of a new airplane model. Fortunately at Boeing, we've actually had quite a bit of experience in recent years. We've had the first flight of the 787-8, 747-8 freighter, 747-8 intercontinental, and now the 787-9. Now I mentioned a flight like today is a major milestone for both the team that designed and built the airplane, but also for the folks who fly it and who test it. And I am so glad to be joined by one of our top-notch pilots here at Boeing Test and Evaluation, which is Captain Heather Ross.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Now, I know you were on the first flight of the fourth 787, so you know very much what a first flight like this means. Tell me what the pilots have gone through. It's been a long day for them.
It's been a very long day for them, not just today, but also, you know, the days prior to this. I mean, we've had extensive amount of testing on the airplane leading to this flight test. We had 4 or 5 days worth of ground tests, very extensive ground tests, and then a taxi test yesterday. We've had milestones along the way, like reviews and approvals. Everybody's go ahead to that the airplane is ready for flight, all leading up to this flight. So certainly there's been a lot of preparation. Before that, of course, there was really months of preparation in the simulators to practice the profile and what we were going to do. So it's quite a lot going on.
So a first flight is sort of, it really kicks off the flight test program.
Absolutely.
Now we'll find out when the pilots show up at the post-flight briefing and sort of tell us some of the things that they did. But give us a sense, give the viewers a sense of what happens during a first flight of a new airplane.
Well, as you can imagine, really everything is literally new. Nothing's been tested yet other than what we were able to accomplish on the ground and during the taxi test. So the real in-flight portion of the testing is brand new. So there are lots and lots of just basic systems checks that go on. Just making certain that all of the systems, the hydraulics, the electrics, the flight controls, the pressurization, all of that is operating properly. And then we actually have a set of dedicated test conditions that we like to get accomplished on the flight, making certain that the airplane is safe at various airspeeds and various conditions. And so we're doing those tests as well. So it's pretty busy during the testing on a first flight.
Yeah, and I've sat in the telemetry room here while these tests are going on. And you know why I think a lot of people look at this and think, you know, it's very exciting, very sexy, and it is. But my takeaway was that it's very methodical. You guys go through a test plan and you just go step by step by step.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, this test program, this test plan has been practiced for many, many hours leading up to the actual flight. But on the flight, yes, we really don't do much of anything that doesn't actually have a condition number associated with it. So everyone understands, the crew on board the airplane, and then the 50 or 60 engineers that are in that telemetry room understand exactly what the condition is, what the configuration of the airplane will be, and what's going to be tested, what speeds, altitudes, everything is very, very detailed and very precise.
Yeah, it's tremendous to watch you and the team on the ground work. Now, earlier, a few seconds ago, I think the camera was zoomed into the flight deck, and I think that was Mike Bryan who was waving. Now, here's a personal question. Does it get a little anticlimactic? You just finished a milestone flight, and now you sort of have to wait before you get off to the ground.
Well, you know, I think that they're just anticipating the opportunity to talk about the flight. I mean, it's been very exciting, and it's been a very long but a very productive 5 hours of testing. And I think everybody on board, both Randy and Mike, are both just excited to be finished with the milestone, excited about the new airplane, excited about the new program, and excited about talking about what their experience was and how the airplane performed.
And the thing that you know with the 787-8, there's a lot more flight testing to go. This was just the first day, and you know, while there's a huge crowd here and a lot of media here, when we're gone, the next day you guys are back, and you're going to take this and 2 other, I believe, flight test airplanes, and you guys are back to work, hour after hour, day after day of flight testing, and making sure this airplane is, you know, it can be certified.
Well, the ironic thing about it is that on the day of the first flight of the Dash 9, the Dash 8, one of the airplanes that I was responsible for, just got back from an extended period of remote testing in different locations. So yes, I mean, here we are 4 years later after the original first flight of the Dash 8, and we are still flying the Dash 8 actively in flight tests. So there's always something else. We're always modifying, changing, growing the airplane, even if it's not a new derivative. A new derivative is very exciting, though, and obviously this is a huge milestone, and we're excited to see the 787 line now continue out to its first derivative, and another one to follow after that. So it's pretty exciting.
Will you be flying this one?
Yes, I certainly hope to. Yes, absolutely.
Well, we wish we can be on board with you. I've heard stories of some of the flights that you've taken. It's pretty exciting. So thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Captain Heather Ross, a flight test pilot with Boeing Test and Evaluation, who has flown with the 787 quite a number of flights. And there you see a Boeing 787-9, the newest member of the Dreamliner family, just wrapped up with its first flight. Now what we're going to do for the webcast is I'm going to make my way over to the press briefing area. I will rejoin you when I get back over there. In the meantime, we'll keep the cameras live. You'll continue to look at the airplane as it waits to get tugged back into the hangar. We'll join you in just a little bit. Won't turn the cameras off. We'll see you in just a little bit. Hello again to all the folks who are watching on webcast on Boeing.com and newairplane.com. As you can see, the airplane has now been tugged towards our hangar here. The air stairs are moving towards the airplane, and then soon Captains Randy Neville and Mike Bryan will be able to get off. They'll be able to tell us some of the test conditions that they went through. You probably saw just a few seconds ago Captain Bryan giving the 2 thumbs up and waving to all the folks who are waiting here. We have Boeing colleagues, special guests, supplier partners, customers, and also family and friends of the 2 pilots. Obviously a very special day for them. And so again, we'll hear from the pilots in just a little bit. There you go, Captain Mike Bryan on the left, Captain Randy Neville on the right. Heading up to the top of the stairs, Ray Connor, President and CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes. Scott Fancher, Vice President and General Manager of the Airplane Development Organization. And also Mark Jenks, Vice President of 787 Development. Just a few more photos to capture this milestone before they can come on down. A very special moment as the pilots greet their families. All of our guests here will get into their seats, and in just a few minutes we'll hear from the pilots of the first flight of the 787-9 Dreamliner. We'll also hear from Mark Jenks, the Vice President of 787 Development. We'll get started in just a few minutes.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, congratulations.
Thanks.
I'll be asking you a few questions. Hello. Good to see you again. Whenever we're ready.
Congratulations. Great flight.
Thanks.
Captain Brian, great job, man.
you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I believe we're all set and ready to go here. Again, a great milestone, the completion of the first flight of the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner, a milestone years in the making. We're glad to have some few introductory remarks from both our pilots and also from Mark Jenks, the Vice President of 787 Development.
Wow, what an amazing day. You know, I don't want to steal any of these guys' thunder, but I'll tell you what, this is about as close to a flawless first flight as I could have imagined. Just absolutely amazing. Fantastic day. So hey, I want to turn it over to the stars of the show here pretty quickly, but first, I'd just like to take the opportunity to personally thank the literally thousands of men and women around the world who have worked for 4 years to make this possible. And especially the group that's worked the last few weeks, I mean, around the clock to prepare the airplane. Just a fantastic team, fantastic airplane, and just an amazing first flight. So with that, I want to turn it over to the stars, our pilots, Mike Bryan and Randy Neville.
And we'll begin with Captain Mike Bryan.
Okay, well, thank you for staying. Sorry we're late. We've got 5 more hours in gas in there. We'd still be up there unless they told us to come back. Beautiful flying airplane. The best I've flown. You'd probably expect me to say that, but it's a very well-built airplane. We literally had some small set messages that we know about that we started with, and we have nothing new. So we call that a no-squawk flight. We've got some inspections to do to get the plane ready, just to be checking out how it looks. But we have nothing to work that's new, and we're ready for another flight as quick as we can go. And I guess to say it flies just like a Dash 8 is an extreme compliment. That's what we want. Up in the flight deck to the pilots, it looks the same. We've got some extra takeoff flaps. We've got some improvements, some modifications, things to make it better. But you can go from each airplane, a Dash 8 to a Dash 9. However, behind all that, it's a really fantastic jet. The work that Mark and his team have done to make this plane even better, just building this fine airplane. It's our first derivative of the family for the 787. I'm really glad to have it down here in flight test and we'll start getting some data. And I'm sorry about that noise as well. That's the APU for our instrumentation folks to bring all that data down of all the tests we did today. And we did a lot. So we accomplished a lot, went up to 20,000 feet. We went 250 knots. We expanded the envelope. We started working our way through all the different flaps. We checked stick shaker for stalls. We did alternate gear extension. We just really shook out the plane, and it came out really, really well. It's a great jet. And Randy?
Well, I agree that this was a great day for the Boeing company. I think for the whole aviation community. I think the 787 is such a great airplane. It's a fantastic airplane, and this one matches the Dash 8. What a beautiful airplane. We had a great flight. We got as much done as we could have in the time allotted, so it was a very successful flight. I would piggyback on Mark's comments about thanking the team. because this just marks the transition into a different phase. We've done the development work, we've done the building, now we're transitioning into flight test. So we're all excited about that. There's a lot ahead of us, but we're anxious to get this airplane out there into the fleet. I think the customers are going to love it. It does everything that we had envisioned that the Dreamliner would, and this is going to do it even better. It will be able to carry more passengers and be even more efficient. So it's going to be a great airplane. We had a good day. We could have, as Mike said, we could have kept flying for hours, and we look forward to getting back into it very soon and continue the flight testing. We've got a busy flight test schedule ahead of us, several months, so that we can start delivering these by the middle of next year. So the customers are going to love it, passengers are going to love flying on it, and we're going to love flying on it during the test program. So we're anxious to get going.
All right. Well, a few questions. So you guys took off just after 11. You described some of the conditions you flew. Give us a little bit more sense of where'd you guys go and some of the other conditions that you took the airplane through.
Well, as you could look outside and see, the weather was a little challenging today. Hopefully that's a delivery flight. So the weather was a bit challenging. We obviously have our weather minimums. We had enough to take off. We coordinated with our 2 chase aircraft. So Barry and Jim, they did a great job coming in. We practiced that before. We do the pickup, get them on our wing as just a backup for the altimeter and airspeed systems and external eyes on the aircraft. And then we decided early at the hold short to turn away from the big storms up there. And then we just kind of worked our way through the clouds as a flight of 3, working as best we can. And then we found some decent air over in the middle of the state, primarily 15,000 feet. We took off with gear down, flaps 20 for any contingencies, just for smart risk mitigation. And then just slowly, incrementally built up the speeds to really fast, really slow. And then we did a lot of data collection where we run sweeps with some instrumentation. So we got a lot of frequency data. And so a lot of that was that. We ended up climbing up into IMC. And we verified the instruments are good. We flew a lot on the instruments today. Came back for the obligatory, I think we got a good shot by Mount Rainier. Got to have one of those. And then came in as a formation for the landing.
And throughout it all, the airplane just did exactly as we expected. There were no surprises. Mike and I were kind of chuckling to ourselves as we were coming in to land. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a UPS DC-11 that landed just ahead of us. They had us delay for those guys to land. It's part of the airport restriction that if we're on the taxiway, they have too much wingspan to land at the same time. So that was part of the reason for us being delayed. Mostly it was because we wanted to keep flying. But anyway, the airplane, we were holding for that UPS airplane to fly, and there were other airplanes that were being vectored in. Very busy environment, just trying to get back and land. So we were sort of chuckling that was the hardest part of the flight, was simply coming back in here and flying the approach in the Boeing field, because the airplane performed so smoothly throughout the day for all those maneuvers Mike just talked about.
Yeah, we were looking at the clock. We were starting to wonder if you'd ever get back, because we know how you guys like to fly. You mentioned you didn't notice too big of a difference between the Dash 8. Were there any differences slight differences that you could detect at all?
No, I would say we get deep into the engineering data with vibration data and the way we shake the plane. So minor engineering feel to that a little differently. If it's a longer plane. But when flying it, no, it's our P beta system. Coming into land, that was the first Dash 9 landing. It's like I've done maybe 1,000. It was another one of those. So the plane just flew as expected. It was like I've been flying it for years, which I have.
And we make a big effort of making sure it does fly like a Dash 8. It has a common type rating, so and literally the required training by the FAA to convert for it to go from the Dash 8 to the Dash 9 is simply a small pamphlet, a handout, just to highlight a few of the differences, which are very minor. So it's a very easy transition, and most things are absolutely transparent to the pilots and to the folks flying on board that it's a different airplane.
Yeah. Now, I know both of you are both very modest, so I'm going to have to ask this question. What was it like personally? Randy, I know you were on board the first flight of the Dash 8. Both of you have flown the Dash 8s quite a number of times. What was it like to fly the Dash 9 on its maiden flight?
Well, I don't know if you know, but I was the backup pilot for the first flight on the Dash 8. So
We had to keep checking behind us so he didn't trip us up going down the steps.
Randy had a food taster for about a week and wasn't allowed outside. But so I was as trained and ready to go. Granted, that's a big event to fly the very first 87. However, in my book, I think flying the derivatives is the next one you can do. So I really enjoyed being a part of this. Thanks to Randy and our whole organization for letting me be the Dash 9 chief pilot. It's a lot of meetings and coordination and design, and now we're finally into the flying. So I think it's great. Thanks.
Yeah, as Mike said, we do have to dig into the engineering side, the engineering data, because to fly it, the airplane is just the same as the Dash 8. And that speaks tons because so much work went in by our engineering community into designing this airplane. We think because it looks like a Dash 8 that the same engineering applies, but the vast majority of components have been redesigned. So that requires a huge amount of effort on part of our whole engineering team. Simply making it bigger, kind of the inside joke in the company and in flight test is we make a stretch airplane. Well, it's a simple stretch. Well, there's really nothing simple about it because everything has to be redesigned. The landing gear gets heavier, the flight control actuators get bigger, the hydraulic system gets bigger, everything has to be looked at again. So a huge effort. It is a new airplane, but it's very easy to transition from the Dash 8.
You mentioned the airplane is ready to fly again. What is next for the airplane?
The plan, we have 1 day of checks to check out the aircraft and go flying again day after tomorrow.
As soon as we can,
Ready to go.
basic inspections, and we'll go and keep going.
Obviously not as big of a flight test campaign as the Dash 8. What are some of the things at a high level that you guys will be putting this airplane through in terms of testing?
Well, we're not doing everything we did on the Dash 8, but a whole lot. It's just a certification package that the FAA and EASA and organizations, you go do the takeoffs and the landings and the stopping, bigger tires, bigger brakes, 50,000 pounds heavier, 20 feet longer. There are some tests, everything we didn't have to repeat. We don't want to. We want to get the plane out in service. But it is a pretty big package, so we're going to get right on it. We'll have 3 aircraft in test, start getting those. We've got our crew and our teams ready to go. Get her out there.
Well, one interesting side note with the test program we've had so far is that there's some aspects of the Dash 9 that we can test on a Dash 8, and that's what we've been busy doing for the last few months. Whether it's these engines or the ice shapes that we put on the wings, because this wing is just like the Dash 8, so we can get credit for some of that testing as risk reduction in preparation for the testing on the Dash 9.
Yeah, that's a good point. We already have certification credit on the Dash 9 already, even before we flew it.
Well, with that said, I'm going to let you go. You guys have more work to do. I know you've had a long day, and you also have the post-flight briefing. So, again, Captains Randy Neville and Mike Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the wonderful milestone that is the first flight of the Boeing 787-9. We thank you for all those who showed up here today, and also for the tens of thousands who logged on to the website to watch this special webcast and to share this milestone with us. With that, we're going to sign off. Thanks very much.